Hi everybody, my name is Sean Ting, and today I'll be presenting to you about a communication issue. This is regarding what a Singapore politician said on the Singapore's Prime Minister's salary. Now, I'll go over the agenda. First, I'll talk about the overview of the incident. Following that, I'll talk about situational awareness, and closing off, I will leave you with my takeaways. We shall move on to the next slide. This slide talks about the comment made by this Singapore politician. His name is Gan Thiam Poh. And in this article, the picture states that he mentioned the Prime Minister is our leader. He has to be responsible for 3.5 million people. Thus, his salary can follow that of the population. $1 per person for a year would add up to $3.5 million. The Prime Minister is generous to give everyone a discount. This politician, Gan Thiam Poh, is the MP for Punggol, GRC in Singapore. MP stands for Member of Parliament, and it is the equivalent of a mayor in a city in the US. He was trying to justify the Prime Minister's salary. He implied that if one were to break the Prime Minister's salary into how much each individual citizen pays for his service, it would be less than $1 each. However, we know that this is not true, because the Prime Minister is actually paid 2.2 million Sing dollars, which is equivalent to about 1.7 million US a year. And Singapore has a population of 5.1 million people. So, in reality, if you divide these two numbers, it would amount to around 33 cents US per citizen. So this next slide is really funny. It is a meme on the incident, and it's really interesting. So on top you'll see the original slide from before, and inserted below is the Indonesian president. He says, "Cannot lah, count in rupiah, me very bohua." Cannot lah means in Singlish, which is a Singaporean slang, that this is not possible. And very bohua means that it is very to his disadvantage, as this is not a fair situation. So basically, this slide is trying to mock what the Singapore politician said, and inserted below was the Indonesian president, who was trying to imply that he would be at a great disadvantage if he were paid in rupiah for every of his citizens. So for example, if he were paid 1 rupiah for each of his citizens, he will be losing out as compared to the Singapore Prime Minister, as rupiah is a very weak currency as compared to the US dollar. So moving on to the next slide, this is a analysis of what the Indonesian president's salary would look like if what the Singapore politician said was true. So in Indonesia, if the president were paid 1 rupiah for each of her Indonesian citizens over there, based on her population of Indonesia at 242,325,638, his salary will only be $25,176 US per year. This is really pathetic for a political leader. So that's why you see that he was complaining that it would be at his disadvantage and that he would be at a loss if this were the case for him. Moving on to the next slide, this shows the salaries of political leaders around the world. So we have US, Australia, France, Germany, Canada, the UK, Russia, and at the very bottom there's Singapore. So if you added the political leaders of all the top countries excluding Singapore, it only amounts to about 1.67 US dollars. But for Singapore's case, it nears $2 million according to this chart. So you can just see the big difference in and the disparity in terms of salaries. If you took all the countries, the biggest countries in the world, and added them up, you will still get a combined salary that is less than Singapore's individual leader. So the top 7 world leaders compared to one leader there is still more. So this is really shocking news even to myself as a Singaporean, and probably that's why many people are complaining in Singapore, and this issue needed some justification from somebody that shouldn't really have done it in the first place. So now we move on to the main topic, situational awareness. I wanted to highlight the importance of knowing your background information before speaking. Each of us must do our due diligence in terms of performing research before we present anything. And also we must know our audience, because every audience will take our message differently. So in this case, this politician in Singapore was speaking to everyone, not only in the political assembly, but actually since it was filmed and broadcasted on air, he was actually speaking to all the people in Singapore. So another important thing is to predetermine what kind of a message you intend to send across. Is it a task message, a relational message, or maintenance message? A task message is to get a specific thing done, while a relational message is to help employees or people realize their potential. A maintenance message, on the other hand, is to ensure that the organization can function properly. So in this case, I personally feel that it would be a maintenance message, because the message was sent out in an attempt to make sure that the organization, in this case the country, can function properly despite the fact that the Prime Minister's salary is that high. And this maintenance message was intended to rectify the problem that people in Singapore were unhappy, and he was trying to solve this issue. So in my point of view, again, I feel that this is a maintenance message, because he intended it to help solve the issue that the people in Singapore were unhappy of the Prime Minister's salary. So now I move on to my last slide, which is my takeaways. My first takeaway is that every presenter must know his or her background facts well beforehand, before presenting, because this is highly important, as background facts are the key to a proper presentation and doesn't deteriorate your credibility after that. Secondly, one must be aware of the impact of his or her words before speaking. So like in this case, this Singapore politician did not really think it through in the first place, and number two, he didn't really have his background information right. So these two combined together amounts to a catastrophic consequence. His credibility was ruined almost immediately, because in the next matter of days, his comments actually went viral online. And now I'm confident to say that his credibility has been tarnished just by these few not so wise remarks. So now I come to the end of my presentation. And should you have any further questions, or if you would like the images that I've shown over here, you can always feel free to contact me at seantin@usc.edu. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you had enjoyed this presentation. I also hope that you had a good laugh from all the pictures that were showcased over here. Thank you.